Good morning, friends. Welcome to J.K. Shah in association with Best Academy, our video class. I am Ramakrishna Shastri, advocate and professor. I'm a senior faculty in the Institute of Chartered Accountancy of India and in J.K. Shah in association with Best Academy. Today, let us take up a rider in voidable contracts. What is a rider? In professional examinations, they don't just ask theory questions. They ask application-oriented questions also. Such questions are called as riders. There is a technique of answering these rider questions, and let us take up one rider under voidable contracts. Let us analyze it. X, an individual, in the first step, commits fraud on Y. And induces him to supply goods to him. So, in the second step, Y sells goods to X. Look at the direction of the arrow. Later on, X, in the third step, sells them to Z. Now, the question is, what is the remedy for Y? This is the question. Now, X has committed fraud on Y, and in the second step, Y has sold the goods. Later on, in the third step, X has sold the goods to Z. Now, the question is, what is the remedy for Y? Now, if you carefully observe, there is a hidden step between the first and second step that is not mentioned in the problem. X commits fraud on Y, Y sells the goods to X. Does Y know that X has committed a fraud on Y? That is not known to us. You have to find out from the given what is not given. Now, what is the second step? Y sells goods to X. The fact that Y sells goods to X means that Y is ignorant of the fraud. That means he doesn't know X has committed a fraud on Y. Because Y doesn't know that it is a fraud, his consent is not affected at that time. If his consent is not affected, the contract is valid at that time. If the contract is valid, ownership rights are transferred to X. If X becomes a valid owner, automatically he gets the eligibility to transfer the goods to Z. But Z becomes a owner only subject to fulfillment of three conditions. What are the three conditions? Z becomes a valid owner if he buys from X in good faith. Number two, he didn't know that X committed a fraud on Y and acquired the goods from Y. Number three, before Y came to know about the fraud committed by X and went to the court to rescind the contract, already Z has become the owner. Now, when all the three conditions are satisfied, you say that Z has become a valid owner, the sale between X and Z is valid, and therefore the principle that is established in a voidable contract is, in any voidable contract, third party will acquire a valid title subject to the fulfillment of three conditions. What are the three conditions? Let me recap. Z buys in good faith from X. Z didn't know about the previous transaction between X and Y involving a fraud, and before Y could find out the fraud, go to the court and rescind it, Z had already become the owner. Therefore, we understand that in any voidable contract, third party becomes a valid owner subject to fulfillment of three conditions. This has to be answered systematically in a step-by-step manner. So, step one, the fact that Y sells goods to X implies that Y doesn't know about the fraud. Because Y doesn't know it's a fraud, he is innocent or ignorant of fraud, and therefore the consent is not affected. When the consent is not affected, the contract is valid. When the contract is valid, ownership is transferred. When the ownership is transferred, X becomes eligible to transfer the sale to Z. So, Z becomes the valid owner, of course, subject to the fulfillment of three conditions. I hope it is clear. and I wish you all the best. Let us meet in the next class. Thank you.